Good morning, patrons. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I want you to know I am really in good spirits today. Don't know why, except maybe because I get to play with my clay. I decided today that I was going to show you how to make a tiger, imitation tiger pendant. Now, not the sculpture of a tiger, but the tiger stripes. And we're going to start off with a 3-part Skinner blend. And I wasn't really sure if I'd ever shown you the 3-part Skinner blend, so I thought I would go ahead and show you now. I am using 3 colors instead of 2 to make my Skinner blend. And I've got a, this is Raw Sienna, which is a primo color, orange, and this is ecru that I mixed a little bit of white with. I wanted a light beige color, but I didn't want the yellowy ecru, so I just took the ecru and added a little bit of white and came up with this color. Now I'm going to blend this. I'm going to do it off camera, but I just wanted to show you what I'm starting with. When you want to do more than one color, and I don't know if you can tell here, I added a little bit of extra clay to this side because I want a little bit more of this color. But even if you have 10 colors, you would cut them into triangles and just stack them alternating. Now this isn't really a triangle because there's other things I want to do with this. Matter of fact, I may trim off a little bit of the brown just because I don't want a lot of brown at the end, but I do want it to be brown. But this is going to make the actual skin of the tiger, and then we will add the stripes. So I'm going to go off camera for a few minutes while I blend this. I may pop in once in a while to show you the different stages, but I just want you to see how I get started. Be right back. Okay, this is after blending about 10 times, and you can see how it's beginning to blend. Don't worry about these little things that come in because as you blend, those are going to disappear. But I just wanted to show you what it does look like. That's the other side. That even looks better. But you notice I have let this get to the width of my pasta machine, which is going to make the blending a little bit more difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I fold it in half, I'm going to try pressing it in a little bit and try to get it to where I can put something in my pasta machine to keep it from spreading. I should have done that before I started, but I didn't think about it. This is not going to mess up your blend as long as you keep everything straight. But let me see. This gives me about an extra inch. So I have made, this is something anybody can do. I had a pretty strong magnet that I covered in clay and molded it. It's the magnet is right in here, and I've molded this to my clay roller before I baked it. And then I've got 2 or 3 of them, but I baked it, and now I can set these on my rollers. Now this is about 2 inches, so I'm not going to be able to use this yet. But this is something you can use. You can even put it on this way. I'm just checking to see it before I move my camera. I wanted to see if this is going to work. But you can see I've made 3 of them. See, this one is the shortest. I might be able to use this, but what you do is you lay this curved part on your roller. Let me see if I can move my camera so you can see. I don't know, it's going to be cockeyed, but if you can just lay this on your roller, then this becomes an edge for your clay, so your blend will stay that width. So that's just another little trick that you might be able to use. And since they're metal, magnet, I just stick them here on my motor and store them for when I want to use them. So let me move this back down without making anybody seasick. But that's what I'm doing. I'm going to try to run it a little bit shorter, but hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the things you can do to make your Skinner blends a little bit easier. So I'll be back after a few more blends. Okay, I wanted to show you what happens. See how much narrower my Skinner blend is? So it gives me more surface and more blending ability. So if you ever have a problem with your Skinner blends scrunching up or spreading out and not having enough to blend, that's one little trick that might help you. So I'm going to keep blending and I'll be right back. Okay, this is my blend, and it could be blended a little bit more, but I'm not really worried about that right now. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold this into thirds. And you notice I'm not making a big cane. You know, in the past I make these huge canes and I'll use 2 or 3 slices of it and then end up the rest of them sitting here for years for me trying to figure out a way to use them. So I'm not going to make a big cane. You can use much more clay than I did. I just used like one little section, like the brown. I used one section of this and still had this left over after I trimmed it. So it's, you know, but you can use a half a block, you can use a whole block. So don't be chintzy with the clay like I am. But anyway, now I'm going to, first I'm going to get that bubble out. There. I'm going to take this now that it's folded into thirds, and I'm going to roll this. I'm going to start on the number 1. The thickest setting, well, my thickest setting is 0, but I'm going to start at a number 1. And I'm going to roll this through the pasta machine, and, well, I'll just show you. I'll do this step by step. All right, that's through a number 1. Now I'm going to move it down to number 3. With a pasta machine, you can go down 2 sizes when you're doing this until you get to the thinner settings, and you might not want to do 2, but you can go from a 1 to a 3 with no problem, but I would not go from 1 to a 4. You don't want any more than 2 settings per time that you roll it. But anyway, you don't have to fold it. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to run it through now at a number 3. And you can see it's much longer. I'm going to move this down now to a number 5. And you can hear by the sound of the pasta machine how much longer it takes to roll it through. So this is through to a number 5, and I believe I'm going to go to a number 6. I want this to be really thin. Now I'm not jumping 2 here, I'm only jumping 1, and we'll see what this looks like on a number 6. Okay, I think this is going to be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an accordion fold. I believe I'll make it about an inch, at least an inch. Now this has a rounded edge, so I might go a little bit over an inch at the beginning. But just fan fold back and forth, and each time you fold, press out the air. Just make sure all the air is out of it, each layer, because it's harder to get it out if you cover it up with another layer of clay. And don't do like I did and start rolling it crooked. I was watching one thing and not paying attention. You want to roll it as straight as you can so that you get your blend all the way to each end. And you can see this is going to be a graduated color from the light to the orange and then to the brown. If you don't do well with accordion folding, you can slice it into little pieces and then stack, but I don't do well with that, so I just stick with the accordion. And I am going to trim off all the little edges that are sticking out. And like that one. And then this brown stuck out pretty far, so I'm going to trim that down. And you can see we have this blend here. Now it's not very fat, probably because I didn't use a lot of clay. But see, I was scrunching it, and see that right there? That's an air bubble. Thank goodness it's on the bottom where I can slice it and press the air out. This must have been where I first laid it down, because I think I got them before. But this really should be a little bit thicker. I probably ought to use more clay, but we'll see how this goes. Maybe I'll do it this way. Okay, but we're going to set this aside. Well, there's some more air. See, even when you're careful, you're going to get air. Just be aware of it. And if you see any little bubbles, just be sure you pop them and get them out. Now I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to take some black. This is some Primo black that is like the end of a package, that just scraps that I had. But it's pure black. And I'm going to go back to my #1 setting and roll this through. I probably need to condition this a little bit, so I'm going to go off camera again and condition this. I'll be right back. Okay, excuse me. One of the things that I decided to do, since I use such a small amount of clay and I don't need to have a huge cane, is I kind of just scrunch this down a little bit until it's about, maybe 3/4 of an inch by a little over an inch tall. But I just wanted to show you. But it's about, I don't know, 1.5 inches long, which is going to be enough cane for me. And you're going to set it up on its side, and I would put the brown on the right. And what I did, what we're going to do is cut some black stripes to put in there. And what I did is I measured the side of my cane for the width and the height, and cut a piece of index card, so that I would know the size of black that I needed to cut. And what I did is I rolled this black at a #2 on my pasta machine, because I don't want it really, really thick, but I don't want it thin either. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to cut these pieces the same size as this piece of index card. I keep wanting to say cardstock, which I guess it is cardstock, but it's mainly just an index card. And I didn't cut it straight, but that's okay. I've had some of my friends, some of my followers tell me they love it when I say that's okay, it's only clay. That's something you really have to learn, because you can get so wrapped up in perfection that you don't have a good time. And it's not a catastrophe if something goes wrong. Just ball it up and start over again. And it took me a long time to get there, so I'm not trying to preach to you because I was there myself. I don't think I'm going to need more than that many stripes, but I'll cut some anyway, and I'll lay this over here in case I need it. So there's some stripes. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these stripes and I'm going to pinch the edges, because you don't want a tiger with fat stripes all the way through, because that's not normal. They're all going to be different. But first I'm going to pinch all the edges to make them kind of flatter and tapered. And again, I'm quiet, aren't I? One of my problems is I get to working, and especially if it's a repetitive thing, my brain just sort of goes into overdrive, and I start thinking all kinds of things. So now all of the, well, one more. Get this out of the way. All of these have been pinched on the ends, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a toothpick, and on some of these I'm going to just make some little ridges. Doesn't matter where they are, because you can put 2 in some of them. Because again, if you look at a tiger, their stripes, I'll just put 1 in that one. And I'll put 1 in this one. I'll put 2 wrinkles close together on that one. But their stripes are not perfectly straight. If you have a perfectly straight tiger stripe, then it looks phony. But anyway, so there's some stripes now that we've got fixed up. Now we're going to take our cane and we're going to cut it. So just kind of make sure it's fastened down on your work surface. In the first one I'm going to curve, and I'm going to, excuse my hair, but I need to follow this down. And I really didn't get all of it. See how it opened up there? So I'm going to put this back. Just make sure it goes back where it belongs. And I'm going to cut another one a little bit thicker. And just try to cut straight down. Okay, and if you want to, you can lay that down. And this is sort of at a curve, and you're going to lay one of your stripes across here. And I really don't want it poking out the sides. So I'm going to trim a little bit, make sure it's still tapered, and see how that does. That still is a little bit close for me. I'm going to trim a little bit on this side, because you don't want it to go all the way to the edge. Just re-taper that. Now can you see how there's a little bit, let me move it up a little bit, of color on each side of this stripe. And in pressing it and everything, it did get a little bit longer. So just line it up on one side and then put your stripe back in place. Your skin, rather, back in place. And I'm going to trim that off. And this got smashed a little bit when I cut it, so let me just lengthen that back out. So before you press it down, make sure that it fits back where it came from. And that's going to be a stripe. And then we're going to maybe curve not quite so much. And I'll put a 2-stripe end. Let me trim this. I already know it's going to be too wide. I should have known that when I made my little template, but it's just as easy to do this. See if I can cut it a little bit closer to size before I put it on there. So I'm going to put this on there and line it up. And then put this back on, and you just continue doing this. Now you can vary the thicknesses. I see, like on this one, the brown is a little bit thicker than the white. You can vary thicknesses that way. You don't want them to be symmetrical. And one thing you can do is you can even cut at an angle like this and bring a stripe even closer to that one. And again, I'm just going to trim off one side and then taper that side. But I'm going to put this over here a little bit closer to the white side. Trim it off. And then put this back. And see, your lines are not going straight across. They're crooked, so to speak. But that's what you want. Now this one I'm going to angle a little bit. Matter of fact, I'm going to go kind of straight across. And let's see. I think I'll take this one, which is a double. I've got the double mark in there. And cut off one side. It's better to cut these a little big to start with, because as you manipulate your cane, the size changes. And I'd rather have have too much. Well, this is backwards. That's why I thought, why am I doing this way? I forgot what I was saying. Oh well. See what happens when you get old? And then just match this up. When I edit this video, I'll see what I was saying and feel kind of stupid. I think I was talking about the stripes, but I'm not really sure, so I don't. Y'all are probably all yelling at me, trying to remind me what it was I was talking about, aren't you? I know how you guys are. And let's see if we've got room. No, I don't think so. I think that's going to be our stripes. So let's press this together and try to lengthen it. And if you want to use your roller, you can. Just roll it on all 4 sides, and that will help to lengthen it and also keep it kind of flat. But you know me, I like to pinch and pull. And hopefully that's enough right there. So just line it up. Cut it in half. And put it together with the brown sides together. And there's your tiger stripe. Isn't that pretty? Now, if you want to, you could have made the stripes a little thicker. Because I wasn't using much clay, I was kind of afraid to make them too thick, because I didn't want to make them look out of proportion to the rest of it, but I kind of like this. So now, depending on what you want, if I make a pendant out of this, I would probably like it a little bit longer. So let's see if we can get it a little bit longer. You can press on the sides and then pull, and press and pull, and press and pull. And let's slice it and see what it looks like on the inside, because that's really where the truth. Well, let's even up these sides first. There. This is where the real truth comes in, is what it looks like on the inside. There you go. There's a tiger stripe. Now you can take this. Of course, this is the piece that I cut off the end. I probably would slice another slice. I would probably slice it at least 1/8 of an inch, if not a little bit more. See what I was talking about, having cane left? I've got the one slice I wanted from my pendant. Now I've got these. Of course, if you want to make more than one pendant, then you need more of a cane. Or if you want to make earrings, you can stretch this out longer and make earrings. Or what would be pretty is to cut it and leave it, cut it back in half and have this half on one part of it on one earring and this part on another earring. That would be nice. And you would do the same process that I'm going to show you now on an earring. You would just do it on a smaller scale. But first off, I want some texture on the back. So let me pull out a texture sheet. See what this one is. Oh, this one will be good. And I think I will do this one over here. Let me get this out of the way. These are my scraps. That's just regular black. I don't want to put any of the black back with my black that has orange in it. But I'm not tight, I'm frugal. You know, clay is good no matter what you do. So anyway, this is a Sculpey texture plate. I think this is called Garden. And this looks like maybe cherry blossoms. This looks like a beehive. These are just some maybe bricks. I know you can't see the texture. And this is, I'm not sure what that is, just leaves. That looks like sun. And I'm not sure what this is, but that looks sort of like a jungle to me. So I'm going to lay this on the jungle and just roll it lightly with my roller just to kind of get it attached. You saw it roll up, so this clay is a little sticky. And just work on the mat for a while till you get things the way you want it. Let me look at my notes real quick. I don't want to skip a point. And I did already. Just leave this on here. And roll this. You cut it thicker so you can roll it. Roll it to the size and the shape that you might want it. And then you can trim it to shape. Now, I've got cutters, but I don't think I have a cutter that will do well with that print. I don't think so. I have 2 drawers of cutters. This is actually my favorite shape cutter, but I don't think that would work well. Well, it might. Let me do this. It'll cut out a lot of the white, but let me do this. Since that's my favorite shape, let me make this a little bit longer. And you can see we could have added more stripes if we had cut this a little bit closer, maybe sort of like these two. So when you're making yours, make sure that you... No, if I do that, it's going to cut it off, and it's just going to look like orange. So I'll just have to wing it. Let me roll this because I've got the prints from my cutter on it. So I think what I'll do is I'll just round this top a little bit. And round the bottom. I'm going to cut some of that off the bottom so there's not so much orange showing. And then I'll also round the sides just by bending my blade. There. I like that shape. And you put this on your background sheet. Just make sure that it's on here and that you have plenty of room around it. Now I'm going to trim some of this off just so we don't have so much clay. I'm not cutting into my mat. I'm just pushing the blade down until it hits my mat, and then I'm pulling the clay off because you don't want to cut into your mat. There. And just kind of press this so that it fits. You can round this a little bit if you like. And all the time that you're doing this, you're putting this background print. So I have a little bit of a mark there from where I had my cutter, but I'll just smooth it with my finger. That's another thing anyway. If you smooth with your finger moving, it'll smooth away your fingerprints. You can put a little cornstarch on your fingers so that it doesn't stick, and it will smooth your surface. But I think this is probably going to be trimmed enough. I'm going to get an index card and I'm going to peel this off. Oops. And I'm ripping my black clay because I didn't use a release like I should have. But see, it's got a nice texture on the back now. I think I can fix that. Just press it in and it should, when it bakes, it'll be fine. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use a piece of sandpaper, if I can remember where I put it. You know, I've been rearranging things here. That's my fine sandpaper. I need my heavy sandpaper. But when I rearrange, then I can't find anything for a while. Let me find my sandpaper. I'll be right back. Okay, I never did find my sanding block or sanding sheet, but I'll show you what I've got. I went and got another piece out of my sanding box. This is really, really coarse sandpaper, and I usually keep a piece of this in my drawer to use for texture. Then I also have a sanding sponge that's made by Rhino USA. It's a washable sanding pad. And I don't use the coarse pad in sanding my polymer clay, but I have used it in texturing. So you can use anything like this, just as long as it's a coarse sandpaper. And I'm going to texturize the background first. And I haven't trimmed my background to size yet because I want to wait till after I do this. But I'm going to... And this also takes care of any fingerprints. and you don't sand texture. So you don't have to sand when it's over either, when you're finished. So I've got my background pretty well texturized. Just get all the little lines out from the side of your thing. And then take it and texturize the top, your pendant. And this helps you to adhere it to the background. And again, it gives it a texture. I don't know if you can see the texture or not. Maybe you can, a little bit of texture there. Anyway, but it just gives it a really nice look, and also helps get rid of your fingerprints. And now you can cut this in any shape you want, and I'm going to try to follow these same lines because I kind of like the curve. And now is also a good time if you want to put your name or anything on the back, to put that on the back. You can also, texturize the top part and bake it first if that works better for you. I like to do mine all at one time. Okay, so there's that, and since let me texture, well, yeah, I'll texturize this too. I'm going to texturize another piece of clay, and I'm going to cut a rectangle. Try to cut it straight. And let's see. I'm probably going to use a knitting needle. That's a pretty good diameter. I don't know what number this is. These are knitting needles I've had for years that I used to use when I did socks. But I am going to take this and wrap it around the knitting needle carefully, because you don't want it to crack. Make sure it meets in the back. And you might want to use a little tool. I have so many little miscellaneous tools. Just take a little tool and kind of smooth this down. And shape it. And then I would cut this off here. And then use a little roller. I messed up my thing. But use a little roller to kind of taper this. And if the fact that it's not straight bothers you, you can always straighten it. Carefully lift this up and place it down on that. And you have a bail for your pendant. And I kind of mashed the texture a little bit with my fingers just then, so you can put your sandpaper on there to kind of give it a good press to make sure it's adhered. And there is your pendant. Let me smooth this out where I messed it up a little while ago. And then touch it up with the sandpaper. And there you go. There's my pendant. Just put it in the oven. I would bake it. Of course, you know me. I like to bake mine for an hour. But I would use, if this is Primo clay, so Primo bakes at 275 for 1 hour. You know, it says, I think 15 minutes per 1/4 inch, but I like to bake mine for an hour to make sure it's strong. But this would be a pendant. When it's finished baking, you can just give this needle a twist and pull it out, and then put your cord through there that you want to use. I think a black rubber cord would look really good on this, and you're set to go. So I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it. Again, you got to see a few of my little flubs, but you know, that's, like I say, that's okay. It's only clay. So I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. And I want to thank you again for helping me with my support. It really means a lot to me. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.